How are you doing? What's going on?
So, tell me a story. Are you a feminist, or what's your deal? And why do you have guardians? Do you have? Are you adopted? Are they parents? Are they mother and father, or no?
No, I say guardians because it's a general term for having people who raise you.
Right, but why not say mother and father?
Well, you could, if someone could say mother and father, if that fitted them.
You could. Wouldn't it? In normal conversation, if somebody asked, if you had a mother or father, you were raised by a single mother, wouldn't it be normal? Wouldn't it make sense to say, yes, I have two parents, or I had parents? Isn't that the usual term? Why would you ever say guardians? Guardians usually refers to somebody like a legal guardian, not your biological mother or father. Why would you ever use the term guardians if you were trying to make sense?
Oh, it's not about, you're making so many presumptions there. But no.
Okay, you tell me. Since I'm making presumptions, I'm asking you, because I would presume, as an intelligent, normal, rational person, that if I was asking you, hey, who are you raised by, you would tell me I was raised by my parents if you're referring to your mother and father, because that's a specific cultural term that anybody can relate to. The only time I would even think to use guardians is if I wasn't referring to my natural parents, if I was referring to a legal guardian or I was adopted by somebody. So I want to know what your rationale is for using guardians instead of just saying parents.
Well, I guess it's just recognizing that not everybody is raised by a mother or father, so just guardian is a catch-all term, that's all. It's not really meaning anything other than that.
It doesn't mean anything? You don't think it's relevant if I'm asking you if you're raised by a single mother or if you're raised by lesbians or a pack of wolves? You don't think that's relevant to talk about that versus you're raised by a mother and a father? You don't think any of those things are relevant?
Well, I didn't realize that we were really getting into the deep, right? So I said that at the time. I mean, it was a casual thing. I mean, I don't think it's too much to really fixate over right now. But
I think it is something to fixate over because it shows you're an idiot. If you can't answer a simple question directly, that tells me you're an incoherent idiot. You don't think a reasonable person, if you asked a reasonable person and you said, hey, who are you raised by? And he said, oh, I have parents. I'm under legal guardianship. I mean, even if you were referring to your biological parents, wouldn't you think that person was an idiot just because they couldn't give a direct answer, a normal answer that most of the population would understand and give?
No, I would imagine that. I was listening to what they said before when they explained why they used the word guardian, and then I'd be okay with it.
Well, we're talking about why you can't even answer a simple question. Why are you so butthurt, or you're so indignant about answering a simple question? That's what I want to know.
I mean, if you want to get further into it, we can really...
Yeah, I would like to get further into it. I would like to know why you couldn't give a straight answer, because a normal, rational person who wasn't an idiot could give a normal, straight answer and say, I was raised by a parent. I had parents. Why couldn't you say I had parents versus I had guardians? That implies that you weren't raised by your biological parents.
Are you?
Well, what's so comical about you being an idiot? I don't understand what's so comical about you not making sense.
No, I think your personality disorder is actually what's...
I have a personality disorder because you're an idiot and you can't tell me who you're raised by? Simply?
No.
How does your idiocy translate into a personality disorder for me? No, how does your lack of education and your complete lack of common sense translate into my responsibility? Isn't it your responsibility to be an educated person and not act like an idiot? Isn't that your responsibility?
Well, I would say my education is what actually led me to say guardians more than
your education. So you're a feminist, is what you're saying. You're a feminist, is what you're saying.
Where did you? No, you're looking for something to spear, right?
So you're not a feminist. What are you? What would you identify as?
I have a tin cup to drink out of. You need to give me a second. I need to.
Okay. You think long and hard. I want you to think about this question while you're drinking out of your cup. What would you identify as? Would you identify as a feminist? As a men's rights activist, as just a impartial bystander who's learning about different movements, as just a curious party? I want to know what your agenda is.
I would say I'm an impartial individual. I don't have an agenda. No agenda.
So you don't. So if somebody said they were a feminist, you wouldn't know what the movement was, or you wouldn't care about feminism. Versus if somebody said they were a men's rights activist, or they said they were a pickup artist, or just any group of category of social interaction or social group, you wouldn't identify with any of those. Liberal, conservative, anything.
I try not to. If someone said they're a feminist, I'd have to ask them what wave, I guess, is what I have to do.
Okay. Let's forget about general labels. Let's get specific then. What is your view? What is your view? Let's get specific then. Instead of being general and saying, a feminist, because like you said, there's third wave feminists and neo feminists, and it could mean anything under the sun. what is your view about the state of men and women today? You've heard various snippets on Reddit regarding feminism, men's rights, various third-party opinions, people who are just disinterested, just don't care, or just people who don't identify with any group but just have an opinion on it. What's your opinion regarding the matter, regarding men and women's relations today?
There's like 3 billion men and about 3 million women, so it's pretty
3 billion men and 3 million women?
Billion.
Okay, gotcha.
I guess billion, I don't know. But anyways, so but I don't really know, like, do you mean like in America? Do you mean like in like what country are we talking about? In what way are they relating? Like, where are you talking about? Like,
let's talk about worldwide, and then let's get more specific. So first let's start worldwide, what you believe about the relations between men and women worldwide, and then we'll go country by country.
Worldwide, it's a bit of a shit show.
How so? Be specific.
We're talking about the world, so I mean,
right. You just said it's a shit show, so be specific.
I'm gonna retract that and say I can't say anything about relations worldwide. Okay, so anyways, we're not here to learn about like my opinion because you're the one with the website and with the book.
Right, but I want to know about your opinion in relation to my opinion because I think your opinion is very valid in relation to my opinion. Don't you have an opinion about the site? Let me hear your opinion about the site. Since let's not talk about your specific view of female and male relations. Let's talk about your view of this site.
I haven't seen much of the site. I think there's a lot of problematic language.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the problematic language. Let's cover it point by point.
Okay. It feels very young. The word usage, calling people cunts, bitches, pussy on the pedestal. I mean, you're quoting the 40-year-old virgin.
I'm not quoting the 40-year-old virgin. Where do you get that I'm quoting the 40-year-old virgin?
I would say that's what popularized the term and sort of like a...
You think that movie popularized the term?
Yeah, it may not have. Honestly,
it hasn't. It's been around for a long time. That's why I was shocked that you never heard that before. I've heard it in various cultural contexts a lot of times before, the 40-year-old virgin. In fact, I wasn't even aware it was in the 40-year-old virgin.
Oh, then you know what? Then it just has to do with me not engaging with individuals who've used that term before. So let's just strike that from the record then.
Okay, let's talk about the language. You consider it puerile or juvenile or too young? What do you feel about terms? What about terms like creep, douchebag, asshole? Those terms that feminists typically use. Do you also find those juvenile?
I don't think that they're words that feminists typically use.
They do. I've seen a lot of feminist blogs and writings, and they typically use those terms. We can go on Jezebel right now, a notorious feminist site, and we'll find plenty of those terms on there.
I will say that most, I don't know, maybe I hang out in a different community than what you're imagining most feminists are, but I think
I would say that's pretty typical of feminists these days. I mean, I can name you a lot of major feminist sites, Huffington Post. I mean, in most liberal media, you could find these terms used. CNN.
I agree.
So, I want to know your view of these terms like asshole, douchebag, creep, misogynist, loser, etc. What are your view on those terms? Do you find those terms childish or young?
You're proposing that they're gendered terms, is what you're proposing.
Yes, they are definitely gendered terms.
Yeah, definitely in certain contexts, and I would not use those terms.
So you consider them equally childish? Such terms like asshole, douchebag, creep, terms typically found on feminist blogs, you would consider them childish?
Yeah, definitely. And
I agree with you. Okay, that's all. I agree with you.
Example of feminist literature.
What's that?
Jezebel's not a good example of feminist literature.
You don't think so? It's it's often cited.
It's a popular.
So I would say, since it's very popular, of course, it epitomizes feminist thought. I would say more obscure blogs don't typify feminism as far as the mainstream components.
They don't. Yeah, but at the same time, you have like an idea of feminism which propagates.
Right, but if 3 people hold an idea of feminism and 3 million people hold a different idea of feminism, I would say that the 3 million people who hold who have the more vast numbers and set more public policy and have more influence socially have the means to say that they are representative of feminism versus the 3 people who think their idea of feminism supersedes the 3 million other people.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you're one to think that.
I am one to think that. I mean, doesn't that make sense? Why, if I was a fringe group, let's say it was just me, and I had a totally different definition of feminism than everybody else, how would I be able to say that my definition of feminism superseded this group of 3 million people over here?
Okay, well, anyways, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that feminism is something that breaks down into many different groups, many different time periods, and many different waves.
Okay, if it has too many time periods, too many groups, and too many different definitions, why would we ever call it feminism? Where would we ever have the ground to call it something?
well, yeah, no, that's the thing. But I mean, feminism is sort of dead, which is moving on more towards queer theory, which is more aware of engaging men's rights and talking about like the issues that face men. I mean, feminism is sort of an old and dead thing, which is Jezebel's holding on to, and hopefully that's something that will like queer rights or queer theory is something that will propagate more. When I say queer theory, I mean more like and again, this is probably something that you haven't had as much experience with because you haven't been involved in that scene, I imagine. But yeah, it's typically more aware of like men's rights and how men also experience like.
So your view of feminism is that the people that are propagating the theory you just espoused, they're supporting men's rights.
No, because again, you're thinking about Jezebel. That's not what I'm.
Well, no, I'm thinking about popular culture and what they're doing to men and how they're protesting against men. So, if your view of feminism that you're purporting right now is nowhere near what is being espoused and advocated in popular cultural circles today. It's totally different. It's totally foreign. I mean, they're protesting right now. They're violently protesting against just having a talk about men's issues. Like just a talk about nothing to do with we hate feminism. They're having talks about boys not doing well in class, and they're violently protesting that.
What are you referring to? I'm sorry.
There's a protest going on right now in your is it a state or what is Canada?
Canada's country.
A country. That's the word I was looking for. I was about to call it a continent. Canada's country, Toronto, right now, the University of Toronto. They are protesting violently, feminists. A talk by Warren Farrell about the state of boys today, about how they're not graduating, how they're committing suicides, it's just a depressing outlook for men today. And they're having a talk about these issues, and feminists are protesting the very talk.
I'll have to look into that to see where.
Oh, we posted the video. You can look at it. It's on our site.
I'm not super familiar with their case, but it doesn't sound like something that, unless there is some sort of extraneous event there, someone, like really anyone would protest. But yeah, it's true, I mean...
yeah, but these are self-identifying feminists that are protesting this and other men's centers that are being proposed. There's a men's center being proposed in another place, and they're protesting just the inclusion of a men's center. As if we're not even allowed to support or talk about issues that affect men.
Okay, yeah, so I mean...
and again, these are self-identifying feminists, the ones that you say are not... that are supportive of men's rights or into queer theory now? You're saying that they shifted?
I never said that about feminists. I mean, and again, I mean, I think like feminism is too broad of a brush. You can't really say feminism with any sort of specificity.
Actually, I could, because they're self-identifying feminists. So if they're identifying as feminists, why couldn't I say that?
Because, well, I mean, you could. I mean, not to evoke like No True Scotsman or anything like that. But
if they themselves are identifying as feminists, how can I not label them as feminists? If they themselves are saying that we're feminists,
no, you can't. I don't really understand what you're doing right now. You're just sort of like
you don't understand. So if a group protesting says we're feminists, and I say feminists are protesting, how do you not understand what I'm doing? Aren't I just saying Aren't I just agreeing with what they're identifying themselves as?
I'll have to look up what you're talking about. What is it? Toronto, Reginald? Let's see here.
The Toronto. You can just look it up. It's on our site. Go to the visitor center. It's the very first post after the sticky post. I'll actually link it to you right now.
Was it Warren Farrell?
Warren Farrell. There's a feminist protest. There's a video of it.
Yeah.
And there are other groups protesting the inclusion of a men's center on campus.
Feminists stage a violent protest against men at the University of Toronto. Here's an advertisement for the speaking engagement at their protest. Whatever. I'm sure they, rally themselves under a feminist term. That's totally fine. I mean,
okay. Well, they may think it's fine, but they're trying to violently protest against guys just having a talk about men's issues. I mean, you could even see the advertisement. We posted the advertisement for this. That's it right there.
So I'm still not fully aware of what you're trying to do. So what you're trying to do now is you're trying to use this example as a way to, like, discredit feminism in general.
It's one of many examples. Our whole visitor section has tons of examples that is discrediting the feminist movement.
I think one needs to, like, take intent and also take the fact that when you get a bunch of people together, you're going to have, like, fucking idiots within it.
Well, right, but that's what we're saying. The philosophy of feminism attracts fucking idiots because it's a fucking idiotic philosophy to begin with.
Well, feminism attracts as many idiots as men's right activism does. So, I mean,
you know what? I would agree with you. I would say there are a lot of idiots in the men's rights
it's
movement.
Almost as if people in general, on a graph, like, there's just idiots in general. I mean, it's just kind of silly to just, like, start, like, being like, oh, I hate feminists, or I hate men's right activists.
Well, look I would say this. I hate both of them. I think both of their movements are diluted, but I would say the more dangerous movement is the feminist movement, because it's actively protesting against men, whereas the men's rights movement are just full of emasculated idiots who are passive-aggressively just trying to assert the right to exist. So I would say they're incompetent idiots, whereas the feminists, I would say, are dangerous idiots.
Okay, so Warren Buffett, world's wealthiest person in 2008. Are they protesting him because of the actions he's committed, or the fact that he wants to talk about men's rights?
Who?
Are we talking about Warren Buffett?
No, Warren Farrell.
Oh, yeah, my apologies. I have my autocorrect here. Fucked up the wrong thing. Warren Farrell. Anyway, so tell me about your website. I'm curious about it. What is your mission statement?
Well, I still want to go over your opinion, and then I'm going to tell you my mission. Let's get all your criticisms out of the way first. Let's cover them first. So I agree with you. I agree with you with the childish language. What else?
I don't know. Oh, I guess the whole assert there's not much content that I've been able to get into on the website.
Let's just cover what you've touched on or what you've seen.
All I've seen is just really bad language, and then
I agree with you. There is a lot of bad language on here.
So then a wonderful graph that sort of is looking at celebrities as examples of manhood.
Oh, you're talking about the authority. Yeah, you know what? Let's actually look at that right now. Let's actually look at this right now. I'll explain this graph to you right now. It's in the Mangina post here. How to tell if you're a Mangina, right? That's the one. Okay. I will actually bring it up right here. Clickety clack. Alright. Where's that chart?
Yeah.
Is that the chart right there?
Yeah.
Is that the PDF of the chart? Okay. Click. Okay, so we're all looking at it. If you click at it twice, it'll expand. Okay, let's start with where you had a problem.
I don't know if it's a problem. I just think it's a silly graph.
I think it's actually a pretty accurate graph. What part of it do you find silly?
What you want your website to show off or to expose to people. It just seems like a really strange way to go about it. But let's see.
I think it's actually a great way because it touches on popular cultural things that people can identify with simply. It's not like some boring 50-page thesis that no person is going to read, unless they have a PhD themselves. So I think it's a very good approach because it actually touches what young people are concerned with or what young people can identify with.
Okay. So what I am a man, what I as a man am supposed to be then according to this is a bitch regulator or?
Okay, so let's go up to where you are. You're saying you're at this point right here, you're a bitch regulator. You're in the sweet spot.
No, I'm asking if that's what I'm supposed to be.
Yes, that's the green spot. That's where you should be.
Okay, so what do then this is your website then, so tell me what do I do to become a bitch regulator? I need to get some water too real quick, so
okay.
You can talk. I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me, okay. So what do you need to do to become a bitch regulator? Well, the term is obviously slang. And these terms are loose descriptions, although they are somewhat accurate. Underneath the description of bitch regulator, it's Sean Connery, and there's a little chess piece that says, Sean Connery keeps his expectations on the table so his intentions are clear. Being able to enforce his authority is the key to his relationship success, and in extreme circumstances, he isn't afraid to keep a backhand chambered for an unruly woman. So if you watch any of the old James Bond movies with Sean Connery, he is not afraid to backhand a woman to keep her in check. So the emphasis is not about the backhand, but the fact that he's able to...
Am I supposed to just hit women or people in general when I disagree with them, or is that not cool?
It's not cool. We're not talking in chick terms where it's nice or cool. We're talking in functional terms, whether it's functional or dysfunctional, whether it's good or bad. Put it this way. If a kid is getting out of line, a functional thing to do is to spank them if they're violating your authority. So, you could color that one of two ways. You could say, that's a functional punishment meant to deter them because it's inflicting pain on them for a behavior you don't want them to do or to repeat. Or you could say that's beating them, that's child abuse, that's torture, etc. So it really depends on how functional you are.
So you're saying the only way to be a functional person and engaging people is to hit them?
No, you're making that assumption. You haven't read our entire ebook yet. But
I'm just asking
right, and I'm clarifying right now. I'm clarifying what we're talking about. You're focusing just on the backhand part because you think that's the end-all be-all of authority, but it isn't, because right now, let's say I'm correcting you right now. That's a punishment for you. That makes you feel bad. That is enforcing my expectations.
No, I don't feel bad about it. We're just talking.
No, sure you do. If I...
I don't feel bad, we're just talking. I'm getting an opinion from you, that's it.
Well, you're not able to understand what's going on, but I'm explaining it to you in social terms. If you didn't feel bad, like if I was your buddy and we had no problems with our relationship, you would be feeling good if I was speaking to you and validating you and affirming you and congratulating you or sharing my experiences with you and rewarding you. In that sense, you'd feel a lot better than me having this confrontational conversation with you, where we're examining your fallacies, where you've gone wrong in places, where you're embarrassed and you can't admit it. You're not a very candid person yourself. So being deceptive is part of your conditioning right now, your social conditioning. You're conditioned to be deceptive, to guard yourself, because you're an insecure person. You're not able to be forthright. Again, that goes with how you answer questions. An insecure person answers questions that way. They can't be forthright because they're worried about competing against the other person. Like you see this discussion as a competition between wills, like you and me are competing for a prize, and if somebody gets one over the other person, we're going to win something. That's not the case here. But because you see it that way, you feel like you just have to give these defensive answers. For instance, you don't understand that saying something negative is a punishment. It's not a reward. I mean, I've recognized you arguing against me, and I recognize that's a punishing thing to me. Not in the sense that it's causing me physical pain, but it's definitely not something that, if I was doing something right, it wouldn't be merited. For example, if I was driving to Canada and I was driving north, and you said, no, that's wrong, you're not giving me any physical pain, but you're disagreeing with me. That is a punishment.
Right. But we're not, anyway, okay, so besides that,
It's not besides that. I'm making a point here that you're not grasping what punishment is.
Okay, so beyond the semantics of the word punishment.
It's not a semantical matter. Again, you're not understanding the point of punishment. There's a wide spectrum of punishment. Just, for instance, there is disagreement, which we are doing right now. And there's physical punishment, where if I punched you in the face.
About the fucking word. So
it's not a word. I'm showing you a wide breadth of punishment. You're too dumb to even grasp the point I'm trying to make. I'm telling you there is a small punishment like disagreement and a large punishment like punching you, physically hurting you. I'm showing you there's a wide breadth, a wide spectrum of punishment, but you're too dumb to even hear this explanation. You're just laughing it off like it's a semantical matter. You're the one who focused on the hitting or the striking of a person. I could have said, oh, that's just semantics. But unlike you, I'm not an idiot. I realize there's a wide spectrum here, and I'm explaining my point. You're the one who's having trouble grasping the issue is not semantics.
Okay. You've punished me by
no, I haven't punished you. I've explained to you the answer. There's a difference between explaining my point so you could rationally understand it and punishing you and just calling you an idiot. It's two different things.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm trying to educate you here. You're asking me a question, and you don't want to hear the answer to it? Doesn't that make you sound like an idiot when you ask me a question that you don't want to hear the answer to?
No, I think I've honestly forgot what we've talked about.
You asked me about smacking women. You wanted to catch me. You wanted to. Yeah, you did. You're like, you asked me a question that was sarcastic. You said, "Is that the way I should deal with people?" As if I was going to say, "Yes, bro, you should just smack your bitch up." You wanted to catch me. You thought you were clever, but you're an idiot. And I just explained to you how you're an idiot, and now you just want to wave it off as semantics. You're deceitful. You're deceitful. No, you're a deceitful asshole. I'm just pointing it out. I mean, I could ask you, oh, is that because you're a scared little faggot? I could be deceitful just like you. I could be deceptive with my questions or with my answers, but I'm being forthright with my answers. You're the one who's being deceptive. If you genuinely wanted to know what I meant when we put this thing here about smacking a woman, you would have asked me. You wouldn't have answered for me. You would have been presumptuous and said, "Oh, so I should just smack every chick I meet?" Obviously, you're bright enough to know that you have an agenda when you say something like that. And to lie to me and just say you're just brushing it off and just saying, "Oh, it was just a slip of the tongue."
Okay, so
it's not okay. Are you clear that you're being deceitful or not? Are you claiming you're not being deceitful when you ask me a question like that?
No, it's totally being sarcastic.
Right, but do you agree that you have an agenda when you ask a question like that? In that manner? Just like if I ask, "Hey, bro, are you a fag because you're wearing that shirt?" I mean, isn't that assumption about you that I'm trying to paint you a certain way, and so my question is leading you? Wouldn't you say that was the agenda behind your question?
I was making an assumption about you because of the content on your website.
Right, and you didn't want to hear the explanation I was going to give. So what does that say about you?
More weird. Me and my two friends over here have been listening to you to sort of.
I'm not really concerned with your two friends. I'm asking you whether you're being deceitful or not, and whether you recognize that or not.
What do you do? Just tell me about your, like, the term.
No, it's not, dude. I can't go on until I know that you're going to be straight with me. Because right now, you're being a pseudo-intellectual faggot.
I think you overuse pseudo-intellectual along with a lot of
No, you are definitely a pseudo-intellectual. You are pretending to be intelligent, and yet you can't make an intelligent point.
Okay,
Your points amount to, okay, let's move on. That's an idiotic point. You haven't even addressed the fallacy yet. An intelligent person would address the fallacy in their thinking versus, let's just move on.
Okay, sorry, I forget, what's the fallacy?
Yeah, of course you forget. You're insecure.
I don't, okay, wait.
You don't think you're insecure? Either you're too dumb or too insecure to figure out, we've been talking about this point now for 5 minutes, and you're either an idiot who can't remember it, or you're being deceitful. Which is it? You're too insecure to tell me the truth.
I don't, in regards to what? I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about. Alright, pay attention or write it down, because you might be too dumb to remember it, but let's cover it. You said, hey bro, should I smack a woman? Is that how I'm supposed to treat women now? According to your site? According to your teachings? That was a leading question. You had an agenda behind that question.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So are you able to admit you're a deceitful asshole because you don't want to hear the explanation that I gave you? You just wanted to wave it off and just say semantics and just move on to the next matter once I give you a full explanation of it, not even acknowledging the explanation?
I said semantics in regards to one word that you use, punish. So I don't know what you mean by that.
Right, but I hadn't even started explaining the point yet, and you were all ready to move on. So why did you even bother to ask me the question?
No, I'm here.
No, you really don't, because if you were here to listen, you would have asked me the question, and then you would have waited for me to give you an answer, not for you to give me the answer and then wave it off and go on to the next question. Don't you think that's deceitful? You don't think that's deceitful?
Deceitful?
Yeah.
I don't think it's deceitful. I was shitty.
So if I said, hey, I think you're an intellectual fag, what do you think?
I go, well...
Okay. And then I go, okay, next question. Would you think that I really meant that to ask you that question? Hey, you're a deceitful fag, what do you think? And then I moved on. What would you think? What would you think my intention was with that question? To investigate whether you were a deceitful fag or not, or just to call you that and move on?
Oh my god, do you
Oh my god, what? I don't care about your indignation, bro. I'm not concerned with your indignation. I'm concerned with you making sense.
Okay. So, let's go back to this thing. I was being, deceitful.
So you admit you're being deceitful?
Well, I think deceitful is a poor word choice for the situation.
Okay, what would you call it? I'll put it to you, and I'll be the person asking the deceitful question, and you label it for me. Hey, bro, you look like a pseudo-intellectual faggot. What's with that? And now you answer, or you try to answer, and I cut you off and say, next question. Okay, now what would you label that?
That's not what happened, dude.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. I gave you an explanation. You said, oh, next, we're going to move on. That's exactly what happened.
Can we get like a third or a fourth opinion?
Yeah, okay, this guy was here. Hey, this guy in the middle. You, what's your name? Or just give me a pseudonym. You don't have to give me your real name.
Me?
Yes, you in the middle.
My name's Chewy.
Okay, Chewy. When this guy was... You heard the exchange. What's your opinion on the exchange?
I think this fellow was being kind of deceitful.
How so?
Because he asked the question, he was trying to catch you, and trying to like he was hoping you would slip up and be like, yeah, like just hit a girl, and just like any girl, and I admitted to that. though. That's the whole point. I admitted to it.
Okay, no, you said it was a bad choice of words. So I asked you, what would you refer to it as?
Dude, okay, I'm at the point now. You've brought me to the point where I agree it was just it was a leading question.
A leading doesn't even begin to address the issue. Leading is like me going, hey, what's the capital of Iceland? Would it be Bray? That doesn't mean I have ill will towards you. Whereas your question implies ill will. So it's totally different matter. It's not just a leading question. You're being an asshole, a deceitful asshole. Now, you said it wasn't deceitful. I want to know, what would you characterize it as, since you're such a brilliant guy?
You know what? I was being an asshole on the internet. I apologize. Can you please explain to me what you mean by that?
I thought I just explained it to you.
No, I've not gotten an explanation. I'm just curious about this one statement on your website. I'm curious about what makes me what was it? Not an alpha male. I'll find it. What was it? I want to know what makes me bitch regulator, and I'm curious about what that means. And you brought up like sort of like physical punishment, and I'm just curious, about your whole opinion on that because it's on your website, right?
It is on my website, but I don't really think you're curious. I think now you're conceding because you don't want to be embarrassed further. But if you actually want an answer, I'll give you an answer this time. Dude, you're so indignant, and yet you can't make a coherent point. I have the ground to be indignant with you, not vice versa. I've been forthright with you. I've been candid with you. I've been chuckling like a fag and so impressed with myself and the points I'm making, even though I'm making much more intelligent points than you. Yeah, I'm not rolling my eyes like a faggot and rubbing my face like you. You haven't heard me chuggling. I should be rolling my eyes at your idiocy, but I'm enduring you. Why can't you afford me the same courtesy?
I don't think you're enduring me. I think you're really getting off on this right now.
You think I'm getting off on talking to an idiot like you? I can talk to much more coherent and honest people than you. Why would I get off on talking to an idiot? It's like talking to a child. I have to explain things at like 20 times the slower speed. I have to be so much more explicit with you. It's like talking to a child. Where do you think I would get off on talking to you like a child?
I don't know. Do you want like an honest answer?
Are you ready to give an honest answer? Is your face going to morph into an honest answer? Are your eyes going to roll back in your head and give me an honest answer? Or is your little bitch indignation going to speak for you? Yeah, you chuckle and giggle like a little bitch. You realize that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if that's how you want to term it.
Yeah, I would term it that way. You're a self-satisfied, smug little bitch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and what's even more embarrassing is that you're self-satisfied and smug about being an idiot, and you don't even realize what an idiot you are. It would be cool if you were smug and you were like Stephen Hawking, or you were ridiculously bright and I was a ridiculous idiot. Then yes, I would say you'd have ground to be smug and roll your eyes and giggle and put your hands up like that and contort your mouth. I'd say you have ground to do that. But you're an idiot doing that. Isn't that embarrassing for you?
Well, I don't really care about this whole thing. I mean, I'm curious about the website. I just wanted to know your opinion on it. Or your opinion, to clarify what was on it, right?
Yeah, I thought we were going over that.
Are we going to get to that point? Or
you want to just skip to the bitch regulator. Let's talk about the bitch regulator. A bitch regulator is a guy who can get his expectations met. His expectations are based on his needs, so essentially he can get his needs met, whereas most guys can't, because they're like you. They're very passive. They're not very candid. They're not very forthright. So they can't regulate bitches. Let me tell you, one of the toughest things for guys to do is to be honest with women. Because they're worried that women aren't going to like them, when actually just the opposite happens. Women always say they like the nice guy. Oh, you're not telling me what I want to hear. You're mean. Girls characterize things as mean and nice. But if you're a guy who could set a limitation and a boundary and restrict women, those women fall in love with you. Those women invest their deepest emotions in guys like that. So that is what is characterized as a bitch regulator. That's a slang term, obviously. I don't know if you caught that. We're using movie caricatures, some real life people like Dr. Phil, but we're facetiously making a valid point here, which is that a bitch regulator is a guy who can keep bitch behavior in check, or dysfunctional female behavior if you don't like the term bitch and you want a pseudo intellectual term.
I don't think it's pseudo-intellectual.
I believe it's definitely pseudo-intellectual. I think if you can't identify a bitch and you have to resort to euphemisms like dysfunctional female, you're a bitch yourself. You can't even be candid. I mean, they mean the same thing.
I consider to be a shitty person regardless of their gender.
You consider what?
I was saying that someone can be a shitty person regardless of gender, I guess.
Right, but bitch is specific to females.
It definitely is, yeah, it's true.
So why wouldn't I use the term bitch?
It's just a shitty term, I guess, for the same reason you don't want to be called an asshole or a creep.
Yeah, but if I was an asshole, I would have to do something to warrant that, whereas a bitch has to do something to warrant being called a bitch. If she's not acting like a bitch, there would be no need to call her a bitch. Look, I believe you're an idiot, and I could call you an idiot and be accurate, and I don't think that'd be childish in the least. You are an idiot. But it's an identifier. It's just like saying the sky is blue. It's not like saying poopy pants. I'm not calling you a term that is not descriptive. Just like a bitch is descriptive of female behavior, of poor female behavior, or dysfunctional female behavior.
Okay, so, please, more about your site. That'd be great to hear.
Right. What specifically would you want to hear about? We're covering it right now. We covered bitch regulator. What else do you want to hear about our site? We have tons of things on our site.
Right, no, well, you just asked me about, what I have seen, and all I saw was those two things on your website, the bitch regulator.
Well, okay, let me tell you what we do on the site. This is a site for men around the world. It's an international site. I don't know if you've got a chance. If you take off the / forum and you just put the manhood101.com in, you'll see the front page of our site. And it's basically it teaches men social competence. It teaches men how to become the bitch regulators so that they can get their needs met, so they can form friendships with guys, and they can form relationships, romantic relationships with girls.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our focus here. This is why we're not a men's rights activist site. Those guys are passive-aggressive pussies or emasculated dysfunctional males in intellectual speak. They are guys who cannot get their expectations met because they're sarcastic, they're passive-aggressive, they can't state things plainly, what you would call whiners or complainers. These are the types of guys who don't get their needs met, who can't get their expectations met with men or women. And it's because they've been raised mostly by single mothers or by this feminist society that emasculates them, that removes their authority over women. So they can't get their needs met. We teach them how to establish their authority in a relationship with a female, how to exercise their authority over women. And when I say exercise their authority over women, I mean like a parent exercises authority over a child. They're not doing it just to say, I'm in charge of you, but they require authority to deal with any problems the child's causing, as well as meet the child's needs. Right? To feed the child, to clothe the child, to house the child, to discipline the child, those all require authority. Those all require the parent to be in charge of the child. If the child is in charge of the parent, or their co-parents, so to speak, like today is trendy, the child will grow up miserable. They'll be spoiled or become a felon, which is typical of children raised by single mothers. They have the highest self-esteem, and yet the highest self-esteem is the group that has the highest self-esteem in society are violent felons.
Okay.
Have you heard of that before? Did you realize that?
That violent felons, sorry?
Yeah, the violent felon statistic that single mothers, the vast majority of felons behind bars are raised by single mothers. Did you realize that? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, you learned something new today.
Huh. Well, what about people raised by single dads?
Unfortunately, there aren't any male role models in their lives. Otherwise, they wouldn't end up behind bars in such record numbers, because there have been studies done that show that having a male role model in a child's life is one of the crucial elements of a functional childhood. A guy gives a child direction and stability. You know why girls always say one of their top 10 things or whatever when they're looking for a mate is always, I want a guy who makes me feel secure. That's not by accident. Girls are very insecure by nature. That's why they depend on guys who make them feel insecure. I mean, we hear from guys all the time who are like, they end up in the friend zone, the nice guys. They're like, hey, what do you want to do tonight, honey? What do you want to do? They're very passive. They want to go along with a female expectation. They don't have any expectations of their own, and they definitely don't enforce their expectations. They keep them hidden. And these are things that females hate and begin to resent in guys when they ask, hey, honey, what do you want to do tonight? They actually want a guy, even though they'll tell you, hey, I don't like a controlling guy, they would prefer a guy who takes charge and says, here, this is what we're going to do tonight, versus a guy who asks, hey, honey, what do you want to do tonight?
Why is what you're saying like so gendered? Isn't it just that maybe everyone should be confident?
No. That's exactly what people think, especially feminists advocate that you're equals in a relationship. But that's like trying to drive a car with two hands on the wheel from different people, saying, hey, we're both in charge of the steering wheel. That's going to end up in a car wreck. You need one person to direct. Just like you wouldn't have a child and a parent steering a relationship.
I don't know if a relationship and a car work exactly the same, so I don't know if that's a safe analogy, maybe.
Okay, let me not use an analogy and let me make it a little more clear to you with a different illustration. Let's say a child and a parent. Should the child have co-authority with a parent over its life?
Are you comparing?
Yeah, I definitely am comparing women to children.
Adult relationships to a relationship between a child and a parent, right?
Well, look at you. You're an adult, but yet you have a childish mentality. So, yes, I think it's a very valid comparison.
I don't. Even if I was childish, that would still not make comparing consensual adult relationships to...
Yeah, but you're using the term adult very loosely. Like, you are technically an adult. I'm assuming you're over 18, but you're a child. You have a child's mentality. I mean, you giggle like a little fag over every little point you feel indignant. Look at you have a giggle on your face. You can't even discuss a matter seriously. That shows you're a child. And yet you're technically an adult.
Well...
Right? Everything's a joke to you. You're a giggling little kid. And yet you're technically an adult. Now, as giggly as you are, as giggly as you are more intelligent than a woman.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Like, what kind of intelligence are we talking about? Like,
well, what do you mean, what kind of intelligence? What other intelligence is there?
Well, there's multiple types of intelligence.
Such as?
Like physical intelligence as it's...
Physical intelligence? What's physical intelligence?
Physical intelligence is like your ability to use your body and how that's trained.
How is that intelligent? How is that even considered intelligent? How would that even be sentient? Let's say I'm a flea and I can jump 5,000 times my size in height. How would that be considered intelligence? I'm an intelligent flea because I'm physically gifted?
I understand the wordplay you're using. Dude,
what do you mean wordplay? No, that's sheer idiocy. How could you classify something as intelligent when it requires no reasoning capacity? Intelligence denotes reasoning capacity. Physical intelligence, that's idiocy. That's like saying emotional intelligence.
Okay, so what we know is that this is where you take your frustrations out from your day job.
I take my frustrations out on idiots like you. Is that what you're presuming? I talk to little kids like you. I'm sorry, adult kids like you. Mm-hmm. And I take so you're like my emotional punching bag.
I think so, yeah. That's why you're not out actually engaging like real people right now.
So you don't consider yourself a real person?
No, I'm definitely a real person, but
No, you just said I don't engage real people. I'm engaging you. I know. It's a laughing matter to make sense for you. I understand. It's comedy to make sense.
No,
this is why idiots are always laughing. You're a giggly fag. You can't make sense.
You're picking up on like semantics and like
semantics. So it's either an issue of semantics or it's an issue of being accurate.
I thought this would be fun, but you're really fun.
Well, but it was fun. Wait a second. It wasn't punishing. Didn't you say it wasn't a punishment? It wasn't it wasn't a problem for you at all. And suddenly it's not fun? Well, making sense is difficult for you. I can understand why it's a chore for you.
Dude, holy shit, you have a fucking personality disorder. You need to chill.
A personality disorder? Are you sure it's not you being butthurt? Oh, he left. Oh, I'm gonna miss that guy.
Oh well.
This is the first day of my life. I swear I was born right in